Listen to me. Your mind is not just a place where thoughts pass through. It's the steering wheel of your entire life. If you don't take charge of what you think, something else will. And when something else controls your thoughts, it shapes your direction, your habits, and your future. So before you blame your situation, check your thinking. Because you become exactly what you keep entertaining in your mind. Family, I want you to hear this with an open heart. Most people try to change their lives from outside. They switch jobs, switch friends, switch routines, but nothing shifts because the inside stays the same. Real transformation starts where no one can see. It starts in the thoughts you keep repeating when the room is quiet. It starts in the stories you tell yourself before you go to bed. It starts in the expectations you set for your own future. When your mind locks onto a picture, your life slowly moves in that direction. Not instantly, not magically, but consistently. Give your mind the right picture and your life begins to rise. Feed it the wrong one and everything begins to shrink. Today, I'm here to help you take back that picture, to help you think on purpose, so your life grows on purpose. When you slow down long enough to notice what runs through your mind, you start to understand why your life moves the way it does. The thoughts you repeat every day become the quiet foundation of who you believe you are. Most people never realize how much power they give to small ideas that slip into their heads. A single thought like, I'm not ready, or I'm not enough, can sit there for years and shape your choices without you even noticing. It influences the opportunities you go after, the relationships you allow, and the expectations you set for your future. Identity doesn't appear out of nowhere. It grows out of the things you tell yourself. If you keep replaying the same message, your mind accepts it as truth. If you tell yourself you are capable, your actions begin to rise to match that belief. If you tell yourself you are powerless, your actions stay small. The mind listens to repetition more than anything else. It does not argue, it absorbs. Over time, it begins to build a version of you based on those repeated messages. This is why it matters to pay attention to the thoughts that feel harmless, the quiet thoughts, the ones you think only once or twice but never challenge. They settle in and start shaping the way you respond to life. They influence how you speak to yourself when no one is watching. They influence the tone you carry, the confidence you show, and the way you interpret setbacks. Your inner world becomes your identity before your outer world ever changes. Identity is not just about how you see yourself today. It is about the direction your thoughts are pushing you toward. If your mind is filled with doubt, fear, or comparison, you begin to act smaller than your potential. If your mind is filled with clarity, purpose, and belief, you begin to move with a sense of direction. You start pursuing things you once avoided. You start handling challenges with steadier emotions. You start expecting growth instead of running from it. The truth is simple. You rise to meet the thoughts you hold on to. You become a reflection of what you repeat. If you want a stronger identity, you start by feeding your mind stronger thoughts. If you want a calmer identity, you start by focusing on thoughts that settle you. Your thoughts are building you quietly, piece by piece, day after day. The question is whether they are building the version of you that you actually want to become. When you focus your mind on something long enough, it starts to shape the direction of your life without you even realizing it. Focus is like a quiet compass inside you. It pulls your attention, your energy, and your decisions toward whatever you keep thinking about. Most people assume their life is guided by chance or circumstance, but the truth is that direction usually comes from what the mind keeps returning to. When your thoughts scatter, your direction scatters. When your thoughts settle on something meaningful, your steps begin to align with it. Think about how your mind behaves when something matters to you. You start noticing opportunities connected to it that you never noticed before. You start paying attention to moments that match your goals. You begin recognizing patterns that help you grow. Focus doesn't force the path to appear, but it sharpens your awareness so the path becomes easier to see. Without that clarity, even good opportunities can pass right by you because you weren't looking for them. Focus also influences your habits. When your mind keeps circling around a specific idea or outcome, your daily behavior starts shifting to support it. You may not change everything at once, but your consistency begins to build quietly. You start spending your energy more wisely. You begin cutting out distractions that don't fit the direction you're trying to move in. You stop giving time to people or situations that drain you. You start making choices that reflect where you want to go instead of where you've been. The power of focus also shows up in your emotional responses. When you know the direction you want your life to move toward, setbacks don't hit you the same way. You still feel them, but they don't pull you off track. You learn to adjust instead of collapse. You learn to rethink instead of retreat. The mind becomes steadier when it knows where it's going. Focus builds emotional endurance because it reminds you that every moment doesn't define you. It's just part of the journey. Most importantly, focus simplifies your internal world. When you know what matters, you stop chasing things that don't. You stop comparing yourself to people who aren't walking your path. You stop spending energy on stories that don't belong to you. Your life becomes more intentional and your choices become clearer. Direction doesn't come from wishing or hoping. It grows from where your mind stays most often. When your focus is steady, your life begins to move with purpose, even in small ways. And those small shifts, repeated over time, create a direction that leads you forward. The way you speak to yourself sets the tone for how you move through your life. Most people don't realize how much weight their inner language carries because it happens quietly without an audience, without a microphone, without applause or criticism. But those private words shape your confidence, your expectations, and the risks you're willing to take. Every time you tell yourself you can't do something, you shrink your possibilities a little. Every time you tell yourself you're capable of learning, growing, or improving, you open a door that once felt locked. Your inner language works like a filter. It colors how you interpret everything that happens to you. When your inner language is harsh, even simple setbacks feel heavier, and you start to take things too personally. You begin to doubt your abilities and question your worth. But when your inner language is steady and encouraging, you handle challenges with more clarity. You understand that setbacks don't define you. They simply require a new plan or a new approach. The words you use with yourself guide how quickly you recover whenever life feels overwhelming. This inner conversation also shapes your courage. If you keep telling yourself that you don't belong in certain rooms or that you're not ready for bigger opportunities, you'll turn away from moments that could have lifted you. But if your inner language sounds like someone who believes in your potential, you're more likely to step into situations that stretch you. You're more likely to try again after failing. You're more likely to trust your own growth instead of doubting it. The stories you repeat in your mind become the expectations you set for yourself, and expectations matter. They influence how hard you try, how long you stay committed, and how you respond when things get uncomfortable. If your self-talk is filled with discouragement, it's hard to stay consistent. But if your self-talk reminds you why you started and encourages you to keep going, your consistency becomes stronger. You begin to show up for yourself in ways that make a real difference over time. What you tell yourself becomes the atmosphere you live in. If that atmosphere is filled with doubt, everything feels heavier. If it's filled with hope, discipline, and clarity, everything feels more purposeful. Your inner language shapes your mindset, your decisions, and the way you carry yourself. When you speak to yourself with intention and honesty, you build a stronger foundation that supports the person you're trying to become. Where you place your attention shapes how you experience your life. Most people think their mood or their motivation comes from whatever is happening around them, but much of it actually comes from what they choose to focus on. Attention acts like a spotlight. Whatever you shine it on becomes larger in your mind. If you keep your attention on stress, setbacks, or distractions, those things begin to feel heavier than they really are. If you keep your attention on growth, purpose, and the steps you can take right now, your path becomes clearer and more manageable. Your attention is one of the most powerful resources you have, but it's also one of the easiest to waste. Every notification, every comparison, every unnecessary worry tries to pull your focus in 100 different directions. When your attention is scattered, your energy becomes scattered too. You start tasks you never finish. You lose momentum halfway through your goals. You spend more time reacting to life than directing it. But when you control where your attention goes, you begin to take back control of your progress and your peace. Attention also influences what you notice. Your mind is always filtering information, deciding what to keep and what to ignore. When your attention leans toward the negative, you start seeing more problems than possibilities. You become quicker to assume the worst and slower to recognize improvement. But when you train your attention to look for opportunities, even small ones, you start noticing chances to grow that were always there, but hidden behind your distractions. Your emotional world is shaped by what you give attention to. If you focus on what you can't change, you feel stuck. If you focus on what you can influence, you feel empowered. The mind is quick to pick up the tone you set. Give attention to fear, and fear grows. Give attention to clarity, and clarity strengthens. You don't have to ignore difficulties to protect your peace. You just have to stop feeding them with constant attention. Your attention directs your future in small, steady ways. What you consistently look at becomes what you eventually move toward. If your attention stays locked on where you want to go, your choices start aligning with that direction. You begin saying no to things that pull you off track. You begin saying yes to things that build you. Over time, your attention becomes the silent force guiding you toward the life you're trying to create. Attention is not passive. It's active, powerful, and deeply influential. When you take ownership of what you pay attention to, you stop drifting and start growing. A negative pattern doesn't disappear on its own. It stays alive through repetition, through old memories, through the habits you continue without thinking. But the moment you introduce a new thought and repeat it with intention, you begin to interrupt that pattern. The mind is shaped by whatever it hears the most. And for many people, the loudest voice has been the one that keeps reminding them of their past limitations. But a new thought, even a small one, can start loosening the grip of an old belief. Interrupting negative patterns doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It simply means refusing to let old thoughts decide your future. When a negative idea arises in your mind, you don't have to accept it as truth. You can pause. You can question it. You can plant a new message in its place. Over time, that new message grows stronger. It begins to challenge the old narrative that has been running your life in the background. Think about how many decisions are influenced by thoughts you didn't choose. Thoughts you absorbed from childhood, from criticism, from failure, or from moments where you didn't feel ready. Those thoughts became patterns because you repeated them, sometimes without noticing. But once you recognize those patterns, you gain the power to interrupt them. You do it by choosing a thought that supports who you're becoming, not who you've been. The process isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet and steady. It looks like catching yourself when you say you aren't capable and replacing it with a thought that reminds you of your growth. It looks like noticing when your mind jumps to fear and guiding it back to clarity. It looks like reminding yourself that progress is possible even when you feel uncertain. Every interruption weakens the old pattern, and every repetition strengthens the new one. As new thoughts take root, your behavior begins to change. You start showing up differently. You start responding instead of reacting. You start making choices that match the person you're trying to grow into. Negative patterns lose their power when they stop being automatic. They lose their influence when you stop feeding them. You don't have to transform everything overnight. You just break the pattern one thought at a time. And as that new pattern grows, your confidence grows with it. Your sense of direction becomes clearer. Your emotional world becomes steadier. You give yourself room to rise because you're no longer repeating the thoughts that once held you down. Growth starts in the mind long before it shows up in your life. Mental discipline is the quiet work that shapes the way you think respond, and move forward. It is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. When you train your mind daily, even in small ways, you begin to build stability that helps you handle pressure, stay focused, and move toward your goals with more confidence. Most people wait for motivation to strike before they act, but mental discipline works differently. It teaches you to act even when you don't feel ready. It helps you follow through when the excitement fades. It reminds you that consistency builds results, not emotion. When you decide to guide your thoughts instead of letting them wander, you give yourself a stronger foundation to stand on. Mental discipline shows up in simple moments. It's choosing not to feed an unnecessary worry. It's redirecting your focus when your mind starts drifting into comparison. It's taking a breath before reacting to something that frustrates you. These small decisions shape your emotional strength. They help you carry yourself with more clarity because you're not letting every passing thought control your mood or your direction. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to separate your thoughts from your identity. You start recognizing which thoughts are helpful and which ones are noise. You begin understanding that not every idea deserves your energy. This awareness gives you space to think clearly and make choices based on intention, not impulse. It keeps you from being controlled by old patterns or temporary emotions. Mental discipline also supports resilience. When challenges come, a trained mind knows how to stay centered. You don't crumble as quickly. You don't lose yourself in stress. You step back, observe the moment, and choose your next move with purpose. This steadiness helps you stay committed to your growth, even when the path feels slow or uncertain. Over time, mental discipline strengthens your belief in yourself. When you see how your thoughts become more grounded and your reactions become more measured, you start trusting your own progress. You begin showing up with more calm, more direction, and more confidence. You understand that lasting change is built through steady effort, not sudden breakthroughs. A disciplined mind becomes a powerful ally. It helps you protect your peace, sustain your focus, and align your choices with the person you want to become. When you train your mind daily, you create a foundation strong enough to support long-term growth. As you walk away from this message, remember that your life is shaped from the inside out. The thoughts you repeat, the focus you hold, the language you use with yourself, the attention you choose to give, the patterns you interrupt, and the discipline you build all work together to guide your direction. Nothing changes overnight, but everything begins with a single decision to think with purpose. You don't need to fix your whole life in one moment. You just need to take ownership of your mind one thought at a time. If you stay consistent, if you stay intentional, your life will begin to rise in ways that reflect your growth. Your mind is building your future even now, so choose the thoughts that help you step into the person you're becoming. Thank you